Hey there, fabulous financiers. Welcome back to another episode of the Do.Different.Better Show, where we talk about wealth, wisdom, and money moves, making finance simple for everyday people. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, founder of Social Impact Now, Connective Institute, and managing director of the Integrated Capital Fund. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to break down the basics of the FIRE movement, FIRE, including its principles and different paths that you can take, like Fat Fire, Lean Fire, and Barista FIRE. I'll cover some practical strategies for achieving FIRE, such as high yield savings accounts, smart investing, and increasing your income through career growth and side hustles. And to bring it all home, I'm going to give you a for real look at the pros and cons of FIRE, helping you decide if it's the right path for your financial journey. So let's dive in. All right, let's kick things off by talking about exactly what is the FIRE movement. The FIRE movement is all about achieving financial independence and retiring earlier than traditional retirement age, which can be around between 67 and 72. That's what the current retirement age. Probably your parents really looked at retiring at 62 or 65, but that number keeps inching up and up and up as we are aging and staying alive longer. Our mortality rates we're living longer lives. So it's really based on the idea of saving and investing a large portion of your income so that you can eventually live off the returns of those investments. So why is all this important? Well, because achieving financial independence means you no longer have to depend on a paycheck to cover your living expenses. It gives you the freedom to choose how you spend your time, whether it's pursuing passions, traveling, or simply enjoying life without financial stress. The FIRE movement has gained a lot of popularity in recent years because, especially as a result of millennials who are looking for a way out of the traditional 9 to 5 grind. But it's not just about quitting your job, it's about gaining control of your financial future and living life on your terms. So now let's define FIRE and some of its general principles. There are two main goals with the FIRE movement, okay? FI, which is financial independence, and RE, which is retirement early. So let's talk about number one, financial independence. That is the point where your investments generate enough income to cover your living expenses. You no longer need to work for money because money is working for you. And then number two, early retirement. Once you achieve that financial independence, you have the option to retire early. That doesn't mean you have to, but you have the option. This doesn't mean you have to stop working entirely, but it gives you freedom to choose like what work you want to do, if any. The main strategies to achieve these goals are high yield savings rate, saving a significant portion of your income, often 50% or more. Two, frugality, living well below your means and cutting unnecessary expenses. And three, investing, putting your savings into investments that grow over time, like stocks or bonds or real estate. So here's a fun fact about FIRE. It was popularized by a book called Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. This book is considered a foundational text for anyone who's interested in financial independence. So if you really want to dig into a lot more after the show, I definitely I definitely recommend that you go and check out that book either on Audible or purchasing it in hard copy. So what are the different types of paths for achieving FIRE? Everyone's journey is not going to be the same because everyone's financial independence looks different. But here are some common variations. So first, there's Fat FIRE. This is for those of you who want to maintain a higher standard of living while retiring early. It involves saving significantly more than the average retirement needs. Two, there's Lean FIRE. This approach focuses on living a minimalist lifestyle, cutting expenses to the bare minimum in order to retire early. Three, there is the Barista FIRE. This is the path that involves semi-retirement where you have enough savings to cover most of your expenses, but you still may need to work part-time to cover the rest. Think of it as a way to ease into retirement. And then number 4 is Coast FIRE. With Coast FIRE, you save aggressively early on and then let compounded interest do the work. And you can coast to retirement without needing much more to save because your investments will grow enough to meet your needs. So these are the different paths that you can take. And as you can tell, one size doesn't fit all in thinking about how you approach your FIRE. It's all about finding the strategy that's going to work best for you, your lifestyle, and your financial goals. And really, you want to think about, particularly if you're single, if you're with a partner, are you looking to expand your family? Are you planning on not expanding your family? All of these are things that are going to be really instrumental in deciding not only which, if you're going to do FIRE, or what is the right FIRE path for you should you decide that you're going to pursue a FIRE methodology to your financial security. So now that we've covered the basics, let's get into some practical tips for understanding your journey towards FIRE. So the first thing is calculating your FIRE. So this is the amount of money you need to have invested to retire early. A common rule of thumb is the 4% rule, which suggests that you can safely withdraw 4% of your investments each year without running out of money. So here's the formula. Take whatever your current annual expenses are and then multiply it by 25. Okay. So just for example, if your annual expenses today are $40,000 for the year, right? Your FIRE number would be 1 million. That's $40,000 times 25, which equals $1 million. Okay. So that's how you calculate your FIRE number. So here are just some resources to help you get in if you really want to geek out on this or really want to learn more. Here's some resources. So I've already told you about the book that's called Your Money, Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. There's also The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. These are really great places to start. There's also some awesome websites. So there's Mr. Money Mustache and ChooseFi for tips and community support around FIRE. There's some tools. There's FIRE calculators like FIRE Calc, CALC, and FIRE Sim. So the letter C, FIRE, FIRE, and Sim, SIM, all one word. And you can run scenarios to see how different savings rates and plans and investment returns impact your FIRE timeline. And then there's also a couple of podcasts. So there's ChooseFi and Mad Fientists, and excellent podcasts that will give you some more inspiration and practical advice for people who are on the FIRE path. So just a little bit more that you want to know about FIRE is really thinking about whether or not this is right for you. Because when we talk about really saving, we're talking about doing some deep, going without Netflix, going without DoorDash. You might decide that you're only going to eat out once a quarter instead of once a week. Maybe you're not going to eat out at all. And we're going to talk a lot more about that as we get into the next segment. But I really want you to start thinking about, hey, is this something I really want to really do a lot of aggressive work now to shortcut doing work later, right? Or having the option to be able to do a part-time job, a side hustle. Or I have some friends of mine, they are nomads. They basically house sit in foreign countries. They are both programmers, so they can do their job from anywhere, but they only work part-time because they actually pursued a FIRE path very, very aggressively. And so now all their living expenses for the most part are covered. They're still drawing a paycheck, but they can use that paycheck and use it for whatever it is that they decide that they want to do, whether that's taking an extra vacation, eating out every night, whatever that looks like. So that wraps it up for this segment. We have covered what the FIRE movement is. We talked about its key principles. We talked about the key paths that you can take. So now here is your call to action. I want you to calculate your FIRE number and start thinking about what path might align best with your goals. Coming up next, we're going to dive into some specific strategies for achieving FIRE, including savings, investing, and increasing and expanding your income. So don't go anywhere. There's plenty of show to come when I show you how to do different better. Welcome back to the Do Different Better Show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen. And in this segment, we are diving into the nitty gritty strategies for achieving financial independence and retiring early, also known as FIRE. We're going to cover saving, investing, and increasing your income. So let's get started. The foundation of FIRE is saving a significant portion of your income. So let's talk about how to do that effectively. So, number one is a high savings rate account or high yield savings account. A high yield savings account is going to be essential for reaching your FIRE. The more you save, the faster you can achieve that financial independence. So, here's a tip. If you don't already have one, create a budget. It's really going to be important for you to not only understand what you're spending right now, but looking at where there are opportunities to cut, right? So I talked a little bit about the break of if you have 4 streaming services, well, if to achieve your FIRE number, are you going to cut back to 3, cut back to 2, cut back to 1, or cut back to none? That obviously is the most aggressive thing to do. But think about it. If you're paying $9.99, I think they're now streaming services are like 12 or 15 bucks a month, right? Think about that. If you've got 4 services, 15 times 4, that's $60 every month. $60 times 12, you can start to see how it quickly starts to add up. Are you eating out? Those kinds of things, right? So to help you with that, to track your income and expenses, there are some budgeting apps like YNAB, which is You Need a Budget, or Personal Capital to help you keep track of your spending, or you can go old school, pen and paper, or I like to use a spreadsheet. So Google Sheets, numbers if you're using Apple products, or Excel spreadsheets. Those are all great mechanisms for you to be able to see what are you spending, to take your bank account statement every month, your credit card statement every month, and really see where you are spending. So tip 2, cutting unnecessary expenses. And obviously unnecessary is a relative statement, right? But really thinking about what's more important to me, achieving this FIRE number or my Pilates class. Instead of my Pilates class and I'm spending maybe 15, 20 bucks a class on, and I'm going to class 2 or 3 times a week, can I go on YouTube? There are some great folks on YouTube that do Pilates and do Pilates at home. So once again, it's really about thinking about how aggressive do you want to be in this pursuit of getting to your FIRE number. But you want to really be looking at dining out less, right? Or maybe you always pick up the tab. Maybe you don't pick up the tab so much. Canceling unused subscriptions or finding cheaper alternatives to your daily expenses. Maybe instead of going to Caribou or Starbucks or getting that hot coffee every day at the coffee shop, maybe you buy an espresso machine and you make coffee from home. So while you might be doing an initial expense up front to buy that Nespresso or Keurig machine, you're saving in the long run because instead of spending 5, 7 bucks on coffee every other day or a couple of times a week, you've bought a machine and now you've greatly reduced how much you're spending on a regular basis. And now maybe you can have coffee, custom coffee every day or artisan coffee every day instead of only 2 or 3 times a week by going out and spending it. Because after you give a tip, after you pay for the coffee, you're in it for almost 10 bucks, right? So you can start to see how that can start to add up. You add up your streaming service, you add up your coffee, you add up maybe your additional classes, you can start to see you're into the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on what you're spending. But just to give you an example, if you spent $100 a month on dining out, which nowadays is probably once a week, cutting that in half could save you $600. And if you put that $600 into a savings account or invested that $600, you can understand over time how that could multiply and really get you to your FIRE number sooner. Tip number 3, automate your savings. Set up automatic transfers to your savings account or investment accounts. This way, you're saving first and living off the rest. A lot of companies now offer payroll services through Gusto or ADP or some other service. And for you as an employee, they give you an option to either set up a savings account with their company or divert any of your paycheck to an alternative account, whether it be an investment account or whether it be a savings account. Definitely take advantage of whether you decide to use FIRE as a path for you or not. It's always a good idea. Just have money automatically taken out of your account. I'll never forget when I realized the power of doing that. I was a single mom and I was just beginning my savings journey. And I was like, there's no way I'm living paycheck to paycheck. There's no way that I can possibly save money. And I literally started with $10 a week. I just started saving $10 a week. I took $10 a week and moved it from one account to a savings account. And once I started doing that, I just started having that $20 every 2 weeks automatically go into an account once I got that set up. Then when I got comfortable, which took about 2 months, I'm like, okay, I'm not missing $20 in my paycheck. It's not as devastating as I thought it would be. I started bumping that up by $10 a month every month. So in the next month, I moved up to $30. The next month, I moved up to $40. So every month, I was extracting more and more and putting it into savings. And I'll never forget the day something happened with my son. I don't remember what, but there was a situation and I needed to have like a couple of $100 available. And I remember panicking because I was like, I don't know if I have this money. And then I remembered I had this savings account. Now, once again, a savings account serves multiple purposes. It's not just for long-term savings, it's also that rainy day fund. And it was so amazing that I had that money to be able to take care of the situation that I had to take care of. And I was so grateful that I had now created this practice of saving. So just to think about that and exploding it 10,000 times, that's what you're going to achieve if you go down this FIRE path. So tip number 3, like I said, automate your savings so that you can transfer money into your savings account. So here's an example. If you automated a transfer of 20% of your paycheck to a high yield savings account or investment account every month, just imagine what that would be over time, because it's not that you're just adding the 20% every single time. You're also earning interest, and that's multiplying month over month, year over year. So here's a fun fact. People who save 50% of their income can retire in about 17 years, while those who save 75% can retire in about 7 years. Now, that's very drastic, right? And may not be necessarily realistic, particularly if you're a young family. But there are other things you can do. I was an avid coupon clipper, and not only was I an avid coupon clipper, I was an avid price matcher. And to really make that come to life, what I used to do is my roommate and I lived in Vegas at the time. I was a single mom. What we would do is we hated to be that person who had all the coupons and was holding up the line. So what we would do is we would, the night before, the day before, we'd gather all of our coupons. We do all of our price matching. We'd figure all of that out. And then we would go to Walmart and we would have all of our coupons. We would go at 7 in the morning because hardly anybody is at Walmart at 7 a.m. So we didn't have to worry about holding up the line. We actually got in and out fairly quickly. We were able to get our grocery shopping done inside of 30 to 40 minutes, the two of us. So because we had planned what we were doing, what we were eating that week, what we planned to spend, and we had all the price matching. It was not uncommon for us to save $50 to $100 on our grocery bill. We were leaving, it got to a point where even the cashiers were impressed by the Jenga that we were doing, the math Jenga we were doing. But it was not uncommon for us, the three of us, we were spending probably less than $100 on groceries because we had done so much cost saving and looking at what we were actually spending our money on and looking at the quantities that we were purchasing and what really made sense. So it's possible. It can be a little tight, but also think about it's temporary, right? You're making a temporary sacrifice for long-term gain. So now we want to go into talking about what are the investing strategies for your FIRE number. So savings is just one part of the equation. The next step is investing wisely. So we've already talked about savings. So now let's talk about investing. Investing is how you make money work for you. And we've talked about in other episodes about setting up investment accounts, joining investment clubs, but the goal is to achieve returns that outpace inflation and help you grow your savings over time. So here's tip one, going and using index funds. One of the simplest and most effective ways to invest is through index funds. They provide broad market exposure, low fees, and consistent return. Check out my show on stocks and bonds, and we'll talk way more deeply about that. But here's an example. If you invest in the S&P 500, which is Standard & Poor's 500 index, it's an index of 500 stocks. It gives you a piece of the 500 largest companies in the United States. Tip two, dollar cost averaging. This strategy involves investing a fixed amount of money at regular intervals, regardless of market conditions. This reduces the risk of investing a large amount in a volatile market and possibly losing your money. So for example, if you invested $500 a month, you could buy shares when the prices are low and fewer when the prices are high, averaging out the cost that you actually pay for that stock. Tip three, real estate. And we've done a whole show on real estate investing. Real estate investing in rental properties can also be a great way to provide steady income stream and potential appreciation. So for example, purchasing a duplex and renting out one of the units while living in the other can help you cover the mortgage payment and build equity. This is something that my son has done. He bought a duplex. He lives in the upper unit. An army buddy of his and his new wife live in the lower unit. We helped him make some improvements to the place so that he could charge some extra rent. And now his lower unit rent pays almost all of his mortgage. His rent that he pays, he's only paying $200 to $300 a month for his mortgage, and the rest is covered by his tenant. Now, obviously, he still needs to put money away to save for any incidentals, say there's a leak or say the washing machine breaks. But to know that if anything happens, he loses his job, which by the way, he works for me. But if he loses his job, he only has to come up with $200 to at least cover his mortgage and then whatever he needs for his other expenses. So just a fun fact about the stock market. The stock market has returned an average of 7 to 10% per year over the long haul. That's why it's such a great tool for growing wealth. Obviously, the market goes up and down, and we hear about that news on the news all the time. But by and large, the stock market over time has always gone up, and it goes up at about a rate of 7 to 10% year over year. So finally, let's talk about some of the other ways to increase your income. While you can accelerate your journey, which can accelerate your journey to reach your FIRE number. So the first is career growth. If you are working in a job, advancing your career is one of the most effective ways to boost your income. And here's how you do it. Number one, upskill. Continuously improve your skills through courses, certifications, professional development, especially if your job pays for it. If they will pay for you to go to a conference and at that conference, there's continuing education credit, take it, do it, use it. These are all things you can put on your resume. And when you get ready to go and ask for a raise or you go to position yourself to get a title change, which comes with a raise, you can say, these are all the certifications, these are all the skills that I advanced. So taking a coding boot camp or earning a project management certification, these are all the ways that can make you more valuable, not only with your current company, but in the job market in general. So if you find that your company isn't valuing these skill sets, you can take them to the market, but because you've invested in yourself, you are now going to get that return in your pay increase. Number two, job hopping. Sometimes the fastest way to get a raise is to switch companies. New hires often receive higher salary increases compared to internal promotions. So let's say, for example, you're making $50,000 at your current job. You can move to a new company doing that same job and get a salary of $60,000 or more. Number three, here's a tip: negotiating. Don't be afraid to negotiate your salary and ask for raises on your performance and market rates. So, for example, before your next annual review, research the average salary for your position and present a strong case for the raise. But be careful. I recently had one of my staff come to me and wanting a raise 30 days into the job. And I'm like, okay, you're asking for a $15,000 raise, but how have you brought $15,000 of value to the company? So you want to be careful that you are able to make a strong case for like why you should be getting this raise or why you should be getting a job title, which obviously should come with a raise. Number two, side hustles and passive income. So in addition to your primary job, side hustles and passive incomes can significantly increase your earnings, right? So here's a tip: freelancing. Use your skills to earn extra money with platforms like Upwork or Fiverr or Freelancer, which can help you find you some gigs. Number two, have an online business. Start an online business such as an e-commerce store, a blog, or YouTube channel. Creating a blog about something you love and monetizing it through ads and affiliate marketing can also be another way that you can generate passive income. Number three, rental income. Invest in a rental property or rent out a spare room on platforms like Airbnb. Renting out a room in your home could bring in an extra $500 a month, especially when you think about people who are traveling, other nomads who are just maybe looking for a place to stay for a couple of days or for a week. You'd be able to make up maybe you decide, hey, I'm only going to rent out my room for 5 days a month, right? That's still extra income. You don't have to rent your room out for the entire time, the extra room that you have. Or if you know that you're going to be going out of town, that might be a good time to rent out your space. There are many millionaires who have multiple streams of income. So diversifying your income and sources can help provide financial security and help you reach your FIRE number faster. So that's it for this segment. We've covered saving, we covered investing, and we've covered increasing your income through key strategies to achieve your FIRE number. So here's my call to action. Choose one saving strategy, one investing strategy, and one way to increase your income and start implementing them today. Remember, small steps can make big changes. Thanks for sticking with me in this segment. We've discussed whether FIRE is right for you. I'm sorry. In our final segment, we're going to discuss whether FIRE is actually right for you. We're going to talk about the pros and cons. We're going to help you think about a personal assessment and some practical steps that can start your FIRE journey. So don't go anywhere. There's plenty more of show to show you how to do different better. Welcome back to the Do Different Better Show. I'm your host, Elaine Rasmussen, and this is our last segment where we're going to explore the FIRE movement and if it is right for you. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons, how to assess if it aligns with your lifestyle, and some practical steps to get your journey started. So let's get right into it. Let's first start looking at the benefits and the challenges of the FIRE movement. Understanding both sides will help you make an informed decision. So here are some of the benefits. Achieving FIRE has lots of advantages that can significantly enhance your quality of life. It's going to give you financial freedom, and that's probably the biggest benefit, that you no longer have to be tied to a job for financial security. So imagine this, being able to just take a year off to travel or pursue a passion project without worrying about income. I had a friend of mine, she ended up leaving her job so she could go study culinary arts at Le Cordon Bleu in France. I had another friend, she went off and she's like, I want to go and study flamenco dancing. Now, she didn't want to become a flamenco dancer professionally, but that was something she'd always wanted to do. And she wanted to actually put a lot of energy and time into it. I think she studied for like over 3 months. She got pretty darn good, but that was something she wanted to do. And she was able to do that because she achieved her FIRE number. And she didn't have to worry about, am I going to be able to take 3 months off? Am I going to be able to get my job back? Because she had the means to be able to take that time, right? Doing FIRE and having a FIRE number allows you to pursue your passions. With financial independence, you can focus on what truly matters to you, whether that's volunteering, maybe it's hobbies, maybe it's spending more time with your family. I joked around with one of my staff. I said to her, I feel like we have a renovation company in our future because we both love to do like restorations. We love doing renovations, but neither one of us wants to like have to count on that money. But if we get paid to do it, like that would be amazing, right? According to a recent study, people who pursue their passions are generally happier and more fulfilled. The other thing with achieving FIRE is less stress. You have this financial independence that can reduce stress and anxiety related to money. So, for example, not having to worry about paying bills or job security can actually lead to better mental and physical health. It also provides you with a set of flexibility, right? FIRE gives you the flexibility to choose how and when you work. So just imagine you can take a part-time job or do freelance work that you enjoy rather than a full-time job that's just a means to an end, right? Now, if you have the grace and the privilege to be able to do what you love, you can still do what you love and maybe just not do it all the time and certainly not have to do it with it contingent on having an income, right? Or paying all of your bills, right? But there is some downsides. All that glitters is not gold, right? While FIRE has a lot of benefits, it's important to be aware of the challenges and potential downsides. So, one, having a high yield savings, right? Saving a large portion of your income requires significant lifestyle changes and an enormous amount of discipline, right? And so you really have to have an honest conversation with yourself. Can you really cut back on dining out? Can you really cut back on vacations? Maybe you take a vacation every 3 or 4 months. And now that's not that. Now, if you're going to pursue FIRE, maybe you're not going on vacation at all. And what are some other spending that you're having? I had a friend of mine that went a year without any kind of television, no cable TV. All the only television that they would watch was anything that was readily available on their television set or on their phone, any kind of entertainment. But they had cut out. And just imagine, I don't know about you, my cable bill is $300 a month. So $300 times 12, 12, 24, 36, that's $3,600. That's just cable and internet, right? So really think about what you're committing to, and particularly if you're doing it in partnership with someone else. Are they willing to make these sacrifices, even if it's temporary? Like, hey, we're going to commit to this for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I definitely recommend that you put a time limit on it. One, it just kind of helps with being able to see the forest for the trees, being able to see the end of the road, right? And not feeling like this is going to be forever and it's just going to be this quicksand that you're sitting in. The other thing about being on a FIRE path is the social isolation. So pursuing FIRE can sometimes lead to social isolation because if you're not spending time with your friends and family as much or doing the things like going out, if that's a part of your social circle, and you're not able to do that because you're looking at this long-term financial benefit, that means you're probably not going to be pursuing. But maybe if you share with your family what you're doing, they can be sensitive, or you share with your friend group what you're doing, they can be sensitive to that. Maybe instead people come over to your house, or maybe you go over to their house, or maybe it's a BYOB, bring your own bread, bring your own food, bring your own breakfast. And that can and settle in and provide an alternative to always going out and spending money. So, but declining social invitations do save you money. Maybe you're not going to every baby shower, particularly for young people. I remember my stepkids at one point in time. I think there were like 4 weddings inside of like 3 months. I couldn't believe it. All their friends were getting married at the same time. So maybe you turn those down, or you say, hey, I'm going to volunteer in your name instead of providing you with a gift, right? Whatever you're going to have to be creative, and you have to be really thoughtful of, are those things that you can or want to do. The next thing is market risk. Your investments are subject to market fluctuations, which can impact your financial security. So, for example, if there's a market downturn, this could significantly reduce your investment portfolio, affecting your ability to retire early. But I want to say that with a word of caution, because as we talked about, there are fluctuations in the market. Investments always have fluctuations. I don't care what the investments are, they always have these fluctuations. So if you are working on a longer term plan, maybe it's a 5-year plan to get to your FIRE number, know that while you might have reached and experienced a dip in the market, there typically will be a bounce back, and it's just a matter of how long it's going to take for the market to bounce back. And then finally, healthcare costs. Without employer-sponsored health insurance, you'll need to budget for healthcare costs. So you have to think about that, particularly if you are going to live a nomadic life where you're going to be traveling. What kind of insurance is available? How much is that going to cost? What are the premiums, and what could be the out-of-pocket medical expenses that you may have to support in your pursuit of your passions or living your FIRE path, right? So now that we've talked about what are the pros and the cons, here are some ways that you can start to understand if the FIRE path is for you, right? So first things first, really take a personal assessment. You really have to assess your financial situation and your willingness to adopt a FIRE lifestyle. There are some great YouTube channels on this. There are some great bloggers that talk about their journey. I encourage you to look through all of those and read them and really understand, and particularly thinking about your ethnic group. If you come from an ethnic community where there are certain cultural norms that have a financial impact, I would go and look at YouTube channels and blogs of that ethnic community that represent your own, so you can understand from a cultural perspective how this might impact you, things you may not have thought of that might impact you, right? So understanding where are those cultural norms and where those cultural norms might come in conflict with starting a FIRE journey, right? I'm not saying that you don't do them. I'm not saying that it's bad or that it's good, but if you're going down this journey, you want to have a clear understanding of how you will be impacted so you can make a good decision of if it's the right thing for you or what modifications you might need to make to actually pursue a FIRE path. The next thing you want to do is evaluate your finances. You're going to need to take a very close look at your income, your expenses, your savings, and if you don't have any, how you're going to save, and any debt that you may have, whether that's credit card debt, maybe that's some other personal debt that you have, maybe it's if you have a home, like that piece of debt, but really understanding what is the universe. What's your financial universe? And once again, I love a spreadsheet. I'm a freak in those spreadsheets. And I love being able to see it and being able to create scenarios where I can play with the numbers to see, like, if I change this, what would happen? If I did this, if I took out all these expenses, what would happen? If I increase my income by 20%, what would happen? And because it allows you to see it very, very quickly, and you can make some assessment or ask more questions, right? I think we talked about in the last episode, we talked about a wealth advisor. This is a conversation. If you have a wealth advisor or you're thinking about getting a wealth advisor or a certified financial planner, this is a conversation you should absolutely have with them. This is something that you're interested in going down, and they can help you answer some questions or navigate this journey to see if it's right for you, but also help you execute on the plan, right? So the next thing after that you want to do after you've assessed your financial situation, you've assessed your willingness to do this. then you need to set some clear financial goals, right? So you want to determine, why do you even want to do this, right? And what do you hope to accomplish by doing this? Is it because you want to travel around the world? Is it because you want to start a business or a side hustle business that doesn't require you having to make money every month? Or do you want to spend more time with your family? Whatever those reasons are, maybe you want to take care of some elderly parents. You want to be able to take care of elderly parents. But understanding your why is so important. And I would even maybe do that first. Why are you even thinking about this? Why is this even a consideration? And what do you want to achieve? I think those are very important questions. Then I want you to think about lifestyle changes. So once again, what are the changes that you think that you're going to make, and which ones are you actually willing to do? Are you ready to cut back on non-essential expenses and live more frugally? Are you willing to clip coupons? Are you willing to come to the store at 7 a.m. so that you don't have to wait in line and you don't have to hold up the line like I did, right? And then finally, understand your risk tolerance. So assess your comfort level with market risk and the possibility of economic downturns. Can you handle the stress of a potential investment losses? Now, more than likely, they will be temporary, but you want to be prepared for that. If you're one of those people who is going to be checking your investment account every day, this may not be the way for you to go. And maybe you might want to augment your FIRE number by doing other things instead of investing, or at least get a more higher comfort level of investing by joining an investment club or doing something like that before you actually move into the investment. Because you don't have to do all of these all at the same time. If you're on a FIRE journey, it's about starting and then adding all of these things in as you start to get more comfortable and more savvy with your FIRE journey. So now let's talk about some very practical steps to start. If you decided that FIRE is right for you, here are some practical ways to begin. Like I said, start a budget, increase your savings rate, investing wisely, right? So focusing on low cost index funds. We said if you're able to, real estate, leveraging either real estate you have or purchasing real estate. There are some assets that can align with your risk tolerance and your goals. Once again, this is where you want to consult a wealth advisor and create an investment strategy. But then there's also networking and learning. So join FIRE communities and forums to connect with other people on the same journey. There is strength in numbers, right? Learn from their experience and share your own. Right. So I already talked about Choose FI, but I'm sure you can go into Google and find lots of other places where you can go. And once again, I think if you come from a particular community, particular identity, definitely understanding how that's going to impact you, some of the norms that are part of your community, whether it's the queer community, whether it's you're a part of a particular ethnic group, you want to understand what maybe are some specific things related to your identity that might come up against this. And so finding other people who look like you or represent you, they're going to be able to have more information about that experience than maybe somebody who isn't, right? So it's really important to do regular reviews, periodically reviewing your financial plan and tracking your progress. I would say in the beginning, maybe once a month. As you get a little bit more comfortable and you have a cadence, maybe you go to every other month. And then from there, maybe you go to once a quarter, right? I probably wouldn't recommend less than once a quarter, just because so you can make sure nothing falls through the cracks in your tracking. But hopefully by then, once you've gotten to that point, it's habit. You have established some really strong habits. You are in sync with, if you're doing this with a partner, whether it be a friend, whether it be a relative, or whether it be your life partner, that you have actually gotten in sync. You've had all the fights that you're going to have, and now everybody's on the same page. So that's another reason why it's super, super important to make sure that you are having lots of conversations if you're pursuing this in partnership, particularly with a life partner, right? But scheduling these quarterly and annual check-ins to evaluate your process and make necessary adjustments. Obviously, this is made a lot easier if you're working with a wealth advisor, but if you're not, once again, building in community could be really powerful. So, and there you have it. We have covered the benefits and the challenges of FIRE, how to decide if it's right for you. We've talked about practical steps and how to get started. And here's my call to action. So take some time this week, maybe this week or next weekend, to evaluate your financial situation and set some clear goals for your FIRE journey. Even if you're not sure if FIRE is right for you, go through the exercise anyway and start looking at and checking out some of the FIRE communities and forums to stay motivated and to get connected with others who share your goals. So in the next episode of Do Different Better, I will tell you one way to maximize your financial impact of your charitable giving through a concept called donor advised fund. I'll talk about what they are, how they work, and you're going to get the lowdown on how to get your own donor advised fund set up, choosing the right sponsoring organization, and managing your fund effectively. I'll share some practical tips on funding your DAF and making impactful grants and leveraging investment options to grow your charitable assets. So thank you for tuning in to the Do Different Better show. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe and leave a review, share it with friends. And I can't wait to see you all next week when I show you how to do different better. Until next time, happy saving and investing.